don't know why, but I felt such pressure the first time I did it myself, and it was like, I'm not ready, and it's like, too bad, too late. You gotta go live. So here we are, we're live, and that's
No.
great. And
Yeah,
I
we're
think
live.
that's
Hi, everybody.
it's the nature of life. It's like, it's gonna happen. So let's just, sit back and hold on and see what happens. I mean,
Well, see, you're
so
better than me, right? You did it, right? You said, "Oh my gosh," but you stayed on. I think the first time I pushed live on it went like 3, 2, 1, and then I stopped it. Like, nope,
I
screech.
mean, the first time I did it, I was actually did it on Facebook, and like last night on your show, you were talking about how you have an audience on Facebook.
Yeah,
Nobody knows me on Facebook, so it was totally safe for me to do that,
good.
coach myself through my
Yeah.
video fears and do that on Facebook and go live every day for weeks until I could comfortably say I can do this. Hi,
Hey,
Chris.
Chris, we were just
You know,
talking about
we
you.
were. And but that was really important, and that, but again, I knew it was a safe space. Nobody's going to see it. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And then the last one, when I knew that I was okay, and I didn't tell anybody about it, hi Leslie,
Hey,
when
Leslie.
when I knew I was okay and I could probably do it in other formats, my little sister actually did one of those things where she's like, "Can I come on? Can I come on?" And I was on Facebook Live, and I was like, "I don't know if I can figure out how to do it." So I'm like hitting buttons and trying to bring her on. And she was just, because she was like, I don't know if anybody knows, but yeah, it was a real big deal in our family that I wouldn't let anybody have video photos of me for 13 years. And she was like, it was a real problem. And I'm like, thanks. But, but it does help. And so, but I think it's the nature, like with everything else,
Yeah.
just go for it. Just do
Just
it.
go for it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Chris, I'm going to actually message you. I had a guest last night, Jamie, and his speaker was crackling. And so I had him log off, and then he logged back in, and it was fine for about 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
then it would just progressively get worse and worse and worse till we couldn't handle it anymore. And then I had him log off, restream, and then he logged back in, and Gretchen was there, and he was fine for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then it would progressively get louder and louder. I'm like, dude, get out. And then he'd come back in. So we did that game for a half an hour.
Yeah. And he even,
Yeah.
Chris, he even took off his earbuds. And the last time it was just through his computer, and that was fine for a bit, but then it started happening
Yep.
too. So
so that was last night.
Tanya kept saying, we need Chris here to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yes. And Jamie will reach out to you, because just putting a plug out there, because he did say it out loud to everybody, right? So it's not like this is confidential. He wants to learn how to live stream. So obviously I recommended on the show that he reach out to you, get some coaching on live streaming. So there you go. All right. So the reason for this is to talk about coaching and what is coaching. And this was perfect timing, because yesterday I had a new client, an executive. He works for the university system, and so he works in the financial aid department. He's like the director of financial aid, and so the university gifted him coaching. And so he got on the call and said, "What is coaching? I've never been coached. I don't know what it is. What are we doing?" So it was perfect timing for this show, because people of all shapes, sizes, and ages and professions are like, well, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you get asked that question?
Every now and then, probably not as often as some people, because mostly what people ask me is, what is it? What do you do? Because, when it comes to career coaching, the way I do it is very different from anybody I know. And it's the only way I know how to do it, but it's not the way I've always done it, but it's sort of evolved over, many years, since 2009 when I started. But, I get it every now and then. And there are a lot of people who also will confuse it. Like, isn't that therapy? And it's like, no, those are very different.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation earlier this week with someone, and I said, okay, I think about it this way. I actually think that therapeutic intervention and coaching are like the perfect handshake, right? I can't do it on camera, but I think they're like the perfect handshake, because I feel like therapeutic intervention is everything that's gotten you to this point. And those are things that you can work on in the past, but they can't propel you forward. You need to work through those. But coaching is, that is that forward progress. That is the open promise, the green sky, the road, what do you want to do? And now we can create a plan, at least that's the way I do it, to help get you there, but we have to identify, right, the challenges that are also keeping you from, that have kept you from doing the thing you say you want to do, or that you do in fact want to do.
Right.
But they are very different. And it's actually
Yep.
one of the reasons why my practice, I actually do partner. And you and I talked about this when I was
Yeah.
on your show. I partner with therapy now down in the gardens. And the reason for that is because there are people who will come to you and you realize they actually do in fact need a therapeutic
Yes.
intervention. Now we
Yep.
can coach at the same time, but they are not the same thing. And
No.
so that is something that is I think more discussion should probably be had for that, because I also, I know that there are some gray areas that people get into when it comes to that, and that can be a challenge
Yeah.
for them. Yeah.
I tell everybody right up front, I'm not trained in therapy. And so my metaphor is similar to yours. I say, therapy is looking through the, you're in your car, you're looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And coaching is where you're at right now, where you want to be.
Yep.
And we fill in the gap.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's something stuck. And so, yes, I have clients who are in coaching with me and in therapy at the same time. In fact, funny story, I have one client, and he's told his therapist that he was in coaching, and she did not have anything positive to say about coaching. They're quacks, that anybody can put up something on their door that says they're a coach. So he came to me, are you a quack? kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he didn't say it like that. But he was concerned, like, well, what are your certifications? Because I don't share my certifications. I have them, but it's not like it's on my chest, right?
Yeah.
So I told him, however, we had a really good coach call. He must have shared it with his therapist, because when he came back the next time, he says, the therapist said you're the real deal.
And
Right?
I think that's significant, because there are a lot, and even, I know it's been referenced before, but that there are a lot of people who will say that they're doing that. And there are a lot, and it's not just limited obviously to a social platform. There are people in the world who, Mel Robbins, she's great. She's great. She is a coach, but there's no certification behind what she does.
Right.
But she is great. But you have to kind of take it all. But the thing with her is she's got the relevant experiential history behind her, whereas, and so you have to look at that too. Like, I'm happy to, I have some of my clients are like, yep, I'll raise a hand. Anybody wants to talk to me about what it was like to work with you? No problem. I have clients who refer other people and members of their family to me because we've had success there. But I get that. I do get that. It's like when anytime you're going to partner with somebody, and make an investment in yourself in some way, you want to know that they know what they're doing. If it's the person who cuts your hair, if it's the person who's gonna, pressure
drill
clean
your teeth.
Exactly. Like, you want to know that they have, that they know what they're doing, that they have experience, that they have credentials to do it, and then take it from there. And there are some ways you can obviously find that out.
Yep.
I mean, we both just kind of put it out there, and there are people that are happy to talk about it. Sorry, you may notice that at some point when the air kicks on in here, I don't know why, it's just like my allergies are like, we're here, but
allergens.
I can't explain it. It's the darndest thing. We've had them cleaned, and but anyway, it happens all the time. But that is really important, and so I applaud him for asking you about that, because a lot of people,
absolutely,
they will shy away from from even trying to help themselves through a coaching partnership, because there is that assumption that it's all, anybody can hang a shingle out there and be one, and that kind of thing. And it's like, I get that, but then you have people who I know people who are fantastic coaches who are in the middle of being credentialed, or or their qualification program, but they've been doing the kind of coaching that they're doing. I mean, I know people who are like, not Mark Cox, who's a voice coach, very different than a vocal coach. But I know people who have been in like theater, and they do that for people. They, that kind of enunciation, and not just singing vocal, but vocal, like how to do that. And they can coach people with that. So, I think you also have to look at their background, what it is that they're talking about and what they've been through. A lot of, and it's interesting. And I know we started talking about how, I talk a lot. So cut me off if I'm over talking.
I'm going to in about 5 sentences.
No, cut me off now.
No,
cut me off now. No, I want to hear your comment.
So, and so one of the other questions is, well, can you mentor me? Right now, I coach an engineer for Qualcomm. There is no way on this green earth I can mentor her in engineering, right? I mean,
Right.
I can do basic math, you know, you know, and she doesn't coach with me because I can mentor her. So no. So again, so we have like what's therapy, what's coaching, what's mentoring. Now I do coach a restaurant director for Olive Garden, and he has many stores that he manages. I've owned a restaurant, right? So can I mentor him a little bit? Maybe not a whole lot, because I didn't like it when I was owning a restaurant with my ex. However, I do understand where he's coming from with people coming and going. Or so where I do mentor is in real estate, because I was a realtor for 30 years and I still have my license. So if it falls on my lap or if it's a family property, I take care of it. So yes, so I can mentor a realtor. I can mentor a lender.
Yeah.
But my engineer or my roofer, I've never been on a roof, and right? Not by choice. So that's another question. It's like, well, do you mentor me? I'm like, no, I help you with. So, hey, Karen. So I'm going to list a couple of things I help people with, and then I want you to list some, right?
Sure.
So I love leadership. So when somebody from Qualcomm comes to me, it's because of leadership, right? I need more compassion, or I had a review that says I'm not delegating enough, or I'm not showing enough compassion, or whatever that leadership skill is. My relationship building, right? Especially now with being scattered all over the place and we're not coming into the office. How do I build better relationships? I didn't get my promotion because.
Yep.
Right? If it's a business owner, it's always making more money. Or how do I'm stuck at this financial situation, right? I need to get unstuck, right?
Yeah.
So I want to make more money, or I need more business. Or for real estate agents, I want to see a steady pipeline, right? I don't want to sell a home and then not see something for 3 months, right? So that's coaching, is again, moving you forward to what you want and filling the gap. Okay, your turn. What are like some of the top things you help people with?
Yeah, it's funny. Most people come to me because they have a challenge professionally. They have a career challenge. And then when we get into it, what we really find is that challenge is really like the seed of it is somewhere else. It's a communication issue. It's a confidence issue. It's a mindset issue that is now bleeding into and infecting what's happening with them professionally and holding them in a spot they don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So that we work a lot with that. And so that's where, there are great career coaches, and they do like documentation, those kind of things. I don't do that, but I work with people on those kind of things. So when they're having that challenge, it's really getting to the root of what the challenge really is. And I'll give you a great example. I had a client who came to me and she was like at her wit's end, and she had been with this company for like more than a decade. Actually, I want to say it was like 15 years or something. And she was PO'd. And she's like, I'm either giving them an ultimatum or I'm walking out the door. And I'm like, whoa, you have a lot of history here. That's a big decision, both of those at this point. So immediately, something's up. If with that amount of time, she's got to give someone an ultimatum. So there's something's not happening, or walking out the door, you just like bail on a career that long. So let's talk about it. Yeah. And it took a few times really getting into it, getting down into it. And what had happened was, what she presented with was, I've applied for a promotion 3 times. I should have that promotion. I know how to do that job. I'm doing that job basically right now. I should have the title and the money. And they've denied it to me 3 times. I was like, okay, let's get into it. So let's start looking through the work, the history, all that kind of stuff. And I get granular with people. But we kept coming back to this thing that was happening in her personal life. There was someone in her personal life who was very sick. And she was having a hard time balancing and managing both. And the one in her person, like, that had to be dealt with. And she's thinking she's got all the balls in the air and she's juggling, she's doing everything great and everybody knows it. And her boss had kept trying to put time on her calendar to have a meeting with her. And yes, this is like, everybody's remote. So we're not all in the office. It's, and she's taking it to be, he's going to criticize something. He's going to criticize something I'm doing. And I'm not going to have that meeting. I'm too busy, blah, blah, blah. He knew what was happening. Everybody knew, because she made sure everybody knew what was happening. I can't go to that meeting because we have this chemo appointment. I can't go to that because we have, so, we have to put in like there's a port that you had, it was that day.
Yep.
And so I can't do this. And so we're all kinds of commitments being broken over here because commitments needed to be maintained over
Right.
here. People were trying to help her and she could not see it. And so she had these blinders up and she was very protective of this because this was family. And so she's doing this to everybody else, but she didn't realize it. So I did the thing that I've never done it before and I've not done it since, but I asked her if we could invite her boss to a call.
Wow.
And would he even come if we did?
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know. I don't think he'll come, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, can we just try it? Because there's a communication that's not happening and you're not going to do it. And I don't think he knows how to do it. So let's just figure it out. So it took a while, but we got them both on a Zoom like this. And we're talking through things. And what he had been trying to do was get her to, sit down and go through her schedule so he could find places to free her up so she could have more available time to handle this, because she was a valuable person in the company. Like, they wanted to value her. They were never going to promote her while this was happening because she would have failed.
And she's not asking for help, right?
Exactly.
So I don't know if Karen Henson is still on the call or not, but it is, asking for help, right? So givers, like your client was a giver, right? And she's giving and she's and prioritizing family, which is phenomenal. Yeah. And then over here, not reaching out for help.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And raising that hand and saying, I can't do all of this, and I don't want to get into, it's not a gender thing, but as women, we're conditioned to do it.
To be the helpers.
We're going to bring it in. We're going to fix it. We're going to arrange it. We're going to do it. And it's really hard when, sounds quite familiar.
Thanks, Karen. I didn't mean to call you out on Zoom or on live. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out on live.
But I think it's good because this is exactly what we're talking. Like, these are common issues that everybody goes through. It's not unusual to need help and be like, I can't ask for help. That's going to look poor on me. I'll look like I can't handle everything. And guess what? A lot of the times we can't handle everything.
Yeah.
We need help, Yeah, so she says she's an open book. Yeah.
Well, and yes, and we create stories, right? So that's like we all create stories. We have stories. And so many of us create stories like, oh, I'm going to be perceived as not being able to do my job, right? That's a story. So I tell my clients, feelings without facts create fiction, right? So go get the facts.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So feelings without facts create fiction. So you're creating a story in your head. I'm not getting promoted. They don't like me, right? They don't think I'm good at what I do. And whatever that false story is, if she had asked her, like, so good for coaching, right? Yeah. You get them together and you get the facts.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, I've said this before, but perception becomes reality. But when in the absence of information, people make their own reality. Those two things are very dangerous when you put them together. Hey, Trevor.
I like that. Feelings without facts create fiction. Hey, Trevor.
I love it. I think it's brilliant because it's absolutely true. That whole information, if you're not getting it, you're going to infer what's happening. Oh, they didn't respond to my email. They're mad at me. Well, maybe they're really busy. Or, if somebody is, I had this conversation with somebody else, again, earlier this week. You're talking to someone else comes in the room and all of a sudden they turn their attention. They start talking to that person. You're upset because you feel like you've just been deprioritized. Right. However, that may be the case, maybe not. Maybe those two people were having a conversation on the way into the meeting and person A had to go, you know what, going to be a long meeting. I'm going to just use the restroom real quick and then I'll meet you in there. Person B goes on into the meeting, starts talking to me. Person A comes in and they're still needing to conclude that conversation. I don't know about that. I wasn't privy to it. Now, person A and B, they need to let me know, we were just talking about X, Y, and Z. That's a communication thing. But if you're not doing that, you're not, helping everybody understand what's going on, people will kind of come up with their own conclusions. And unfortunately, a lot of the times they're not accurate and they can be hurtful, to ourselves and to other people. I think that's really important is kind of just look at it with a different lens,
That's right.
Not your own. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Perspective work. So there's another topic for coaching, right? Is helping people see different perspectives. We get stuck on one perspective, right? And there's 5 or 6 other ones. And I help people literally go to different windows in their house and look out the window and get a different perspective.
Oh, I love
Feel
that.
that one. Isn't that good?
That is really good.
It's really powerful. It's like, go out your kitchen window. What do you see? And great. So what opens up here around this perspective? And look out your bedroom window. Really, truly. And it opens up so many different perspectives around something that they're stuck on.
That is really smart. Yeah. I've never thought about that, but now I'm mentally going out my windows in my house going, yeah, like there are things that you just won't see through one that you will through another. And even a small slight perspective, I can look out of the same window on the first floor, go up to the second floor, they're in the same phase, but I'm going to see different things. That is really,
want to practice that with me, we can practice it together.
That's effective.
Powerful
I love
coaching.
it.
Yeah. I do it with myself sometimes when I get stuck on something, you know.
Yeah. I always do the Byron Katie, like the work, like the questions. You know, how do I know this is true? You know, what happens if it actually is true? You know, like those kind of things, like really doing that for myself. And the other thing is I start to ask, like, okay, challenging people in your life. They're challenging for a reason. They're there, and you know, I mean, everybody's got the button pushers, but they're there to show you something.
My mother,
you know.
Hi, Mom. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But I mean, they're there to show you something. And that's, you know, I remember years ago, I was working with somebody and there was a person in another department. We were all part of the same big department, marketing. We were on one department group, and then there was another group, and they just oil and water, not working. And at one point he came in one day and he was like totally zen about it. He goes, you know, she's my gift. She's here to show me something. And I'm thinking, is he being funny? He was totally serious. Like he thought about it a long time.
That's pretty deep.
And he was like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to figure it out, not try to make her be what I think she should be. I'm just going to try and figure out what she's here to teach me.
Yeah.
And there was, you know, the pushback was for valid reasons. Not always, but most of the time, because she had a perspective that needed to be, I mean, again, there was a communication problem there.
Right.
But that perspective that he gave himself began to unravel all the problems that were there.
Yeah. Okay, so another comment you made that I wanted to make sure I circled back to was on, you know, you have a coach call with somebody and it takes a while to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So I call that peeling away the onion, right? So I want to peel away the onion. When I ask them what's the challenge or what's getting in your way, they'll give me an answer.
Yeah.
And I know from experience that's not the real one, right?
Yeah.
Right. So so my favorite coaching question, and I want yours, is what else? Because I'll say, okay, well, what else? What else is getting in the way? And if I keep saying what else 3 or 4 times, usually that's when I hit the target. And then, and how I know that is because I get emotional.
Yeah. For me,
I love it because it's like, bingo, there's the issue, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how about for you?
For me, it's why is that important to you? Yeah. What does that do for you? Right. So if somebody says, I want that promotion, or I want that raise, or I want that whatever, why is that important to you? You know, I want to get a different job. What will that do for you?
Yeah.
You know, and there are a lot of there's a lot of questions, you know.
Yep.
And when you get into it, you know, you discover that, you know, maybe they need more time freedom, you know, than they have in their role right now. Can that be gotten in other ways? Do we need to do the big upheaval of leaving a job? You know, I mean, I have a client who, when we first started working together, it was like, I am leaving this job. I can't do it. I'm leaving it. The whole industry is terrible. I'm leaving it. Mm-hmm. And what we got into was there was a fundamental communication issue that was going on with one of her supervisors. And I said, before we can even discuss anything, we got to throw all that away.
Right.
We have to repair that relationship, because that relationship is clouding your judgment about your work, your role, the industry that you're a part of. You can't even begin to see any of that clearly until you fix this. So we have to figure out a way to do that. And so we spent some time on that. And when we did that, it really was a very revelatory process. She realized that the industry actually is one that she's very good at. And the company is good. Maybe there's a life there. So now we're working on what that looks like for her. But until you can get, like you said, get to the core down to
And
that.
that thing, and a lot of times it's a story they've created, right? It's a mindset. I'm not smart enough, or I'm
Yeah.
too fat, or I'm too old, or
Yeah.
I don't have this degree, or I'm not ready yet. And that's typically what it is. And then again, if I find that it's something around some past childhood trauma or something, and that's when I'll say, yeah, let's go check into a therapist,
Yeah.
because that's not my training, but yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
Super important to peel away that onion.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
And so many, because again, it's kind of mind blowing how many people are ready to make a huge decision without really, we've not really gone deep to understand why we want to make that decision, what's going to be the collaterals,
Yeah.
of making that decision, and fundamentally, why do we want to do it, and that you'll have people who will be like, well, I'm hopping from this job to this one because it's 10 grand more a year. I'm like, let's break
Yes.
that down, that 10 grand,
Right.
like,
How much is that per month, and is it really going to be the right decision?
and
Yeah.
is there a commute? You don't have one now. Do they have a 401k? Do they match? What
Right.
about now? Like, you have to balance all that. And that's just one kind of very surface example, but it's the same with anything. If you're ready to make a decision, you have to understand why. What's the benefit? What could be the
Right.
downside? What's motivating your desire to do that? And that's really important. And a lot of people don't know that right off the top of their head.
Sure. In
But
career coaching, they need to, because the grass isn't always greener, on the other
absolutely.
side. And of course,
Yeah.
this, and I know this, a couple years ago when they were going through the Great Resignation. I was a part of the Great Resignation. I left my corporate job during the quote Great Resignation. And yes, I tend to be a leaper. However, I didn't quite. At my age, if I was 30, I would have just left, because I'm a leaper. I make a decision, go, and I'll figure it out how to land on my way down.
Yeah.
At my age, I'm not quite that. I still leap. However, I do look at some of the, what's it look like in your bank account? What's it look like? Now I have to market myself when I open up my own coaching company, right?
You have to. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Same thing. I mean, you and I talked about this. I left corporate October 1st, 2021 was my first day not in corporate in, my gosh, more than 2 decades. I'm 53. So
yeah,
that was my first. And I left without really knowing. I just knew that my time there was done in that, like, it was just done. It was like one of those gut feelings that I had for a while. And then there was that day, I believe it was September 15th of that year, that I was like, today's the day. Like the universe, I don't know those things, but there was no arguing with that. And so that was the day. And 2 weeks later, that was that. And it took me a little bit to really figure out what to do. And starting a business was not something that I had planned on doing. But you're right. I mean, I'm glad that I did it. But again, it's a whole other thing, when you're like, you have to do all of that for yourself. And it feels very different, doing that for the first time.
Yeah.
But it's also rewarding. But again, I'm, the Great Resignation, I was talking to somebody yesterday about this. I really wish there was more conversation around the reasons, because a lot of what we read was, the bad bosses, the corporate, hierarchy, the kind of,
no compassion, no flexibility,
right? Yep. Not enough money, those kind of things. But when you talk to people, a lot of them, it doesn't really come down to the money or any of those kind of things. It's something that happened when we were all inside for, a year or two. And a lot of it is, to me, the people I talk to, rooted in that sense of time freedom and autonomy. And you can still work for someone, but again, that autonomy, so that when you need to, if you wake up and your little one has the sniffles, now something's it's going to have a cascading effect on your day. How does your employer deal with that? Those are the things that actually do cause people to consider maybe there's something else. So it's not always, the corporate thing or whatever. There are little reasons, but they stack up over time. I think a lot of us realized what was really important to us.
Right. So mine stacked up over time. So my date was February 14th, 2022. So it's almost.
Oh, you're about to have an anniversary.
Yes. Yeah. On February 14th is when I gave notice, and it was, and I had a coach. So I knew I needed a coach. So my to help me get through it, keep my mindset, not quote chicken. And I'm not a chicken out. I'm a leaper. However, I had a phenomenal coach, and I don't look back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't either. I mean, it's funny. And like I was saying last night on your show, most coaches that I know have a coach, at
Yep.
least one. And so, and I had a business coach for a while. And because, as a new business owner, it's like I've been in marketing for a lot of years. I mean, like, when did I go? I started working online in 96 at Sportsline. And then after in 2004, when they got bought by CBS and they laid everybody off, I went to work for Tropical. So I've been in marketing since 2005. So that's a long time.
Yeah.
But when you're marketing yourself, that's
It's
a whole other
different.
thing. And that's when you realize, like, maybe I'm not as confident as I feel. Like, it's very difficult to put yourself out there.
I
And
know those
so,
stories we create in our heads. I don't want to be too pushy. I know,
yeah,
right? And then on LinkedIn, people will say, well, you don't want to sell, you just want to tell stories. But at some point, I need to say what I do.
exactly.
You
And
know?
that's the other thing
Yeah.
too, is,
Yeah.
for so many years, everything that I did was word of mouth. Every client
Yeah.
I ever had was referred to me by somebody that worked with me
Me
before.
too.
And so
So
I never had to
grateful.
have the money conversation or any of that. And so when you open a business, all of a sudden you have to have those conversations. Like you were
Yep.
saying, I got to let people know what I do,
Right.
if I can
Exactly.
help them. You know, it's your choice if you want to work with me. I hope you do. I think I'm pretty cool. I think you're pretty cool. I'm sure people want to work with you, but I can't be like Barnum and Bailey out there. And I also don't want to be like totally reticent, because there are people who I really, really fundamentally know I could help them just like you.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason we get into this, and it's not to shill or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There are
So
people that, yeah,
yeah. So Chris comment, that selling line is a hard one to walk sometimes. It really is. Right. And Chris
absolutely.
does a great job. Like, he tells great stories, and then it's like, oh, here's my merch, which I have. He has one. So Chris has a post this morning on being weird. And I wish I could show you a picture, but if you go look at his post, I have his Be Weird sticker on my laptop.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah, so
that's,
obviously he's selling well, because there's my sticker on my laptop. And then yesterday's show, I have the I'm single, say hi mug while I'm on my show yesterday.
yeah.
Remember? Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the
And
other
then
thing.
Trevor, I want to do a shout out for Trevor. He has the 344 show, which I'm on today. Yay!
Yay!
Yeah. So
I'm not
Trevor,
doing it.
is letting us sell. So he's
I'm
giving a space to sell.
Yeah, I'm not doing it till February.
Yeah.
But I was going to mention him too, because I think that's really important, because there's a section of LinkedIn that will,
Yeah.
they will just excoriate. They will just burn you if you try to sell something. If you
Yeah.
even say, like, I can help you with that, they will pounce on you and leave your bloody carcass to fend for itself. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Or the post doesn't get any traction. So if I post something on my free workshop that's coming up February 10th, it's zero, or very little. Thank you, Gretchen, for all your support on LinkedIn. So you'll post on it, but then it's empty,
Yeah.
and then I'll post a fun story about myself or about a client, and then it goes viral. So
Yeah.
it sometimes those feelings without facts, it's like, but look at the facts.
Yeah.
When I do a selling post, nothing happens.
Well, I did, yeah, exactly. I mean, I did one, and we talked about signatures in your, and that, like, to use them or not use them and that kind of thing. Like, there are a lot of gray areas when it comes to a new business owner trying to figure this stuff out. The coaching piece, the working with people, helping to support people through, I always sometimes liken it to, like, a physical tornado that you're in. And I remember that, like, you and I have talked about this, there was a series of years from 2014 to 2018 when the house blew up that kicked off with my mom getting, like, crippled in a hot air balloon ride that I gave my parents for their 50th wedding anniversary, up through the day that the house blew up, September, 12th, 2018. That was there were so many things that happened in those years.
Yeah.
Getting through that, I know how to help people through that. And that is one thing that in my bones, when people are going through it, I want to just wrap them in a hug and go, honey, I can walk you through this. I can literally walk you through this. I have walked that fire. I know how to do it, and I can show you how to do it. But then there's also that part of me that's like, how do you do that? Like, and just an everyday conversation, like, I'll DM people and go, look, here's what I did about this. I do a great example. And I thought about this last night when you had Jamie on your show. I do. I have a thing that I give all my clients when they come to me, and it's, usually comes about something with career, and then we get into
Yeah.
other things. But I always start with, let's optimize your LinkedIn profile. And I have a customized checklist that I do for my clients. And
No.
it's deep, but we get
Yeah.
into everything. And so I thought, well, there was a girl that Melissa Houston referred to me. And so I did one for her for free. And I was like, she posted about it, and people were like, where'd you get it? Where'd you get it? I want it. And so I thought, wow, I do one for my clients, and I did it for her because I really, she was ready to use it. But then I thought, well, maybe I'll do something with that. So I made my first like freebie, like,
Yeah.
real freebie.
Yeah.
And so I put it out there, and, a few people have downloaded it, which is really cool. But that's the kind of thing where I think it's important. Like, that old phrase, if you live it, give it, if you know it,
Right.
show it. And so just do that. But again, those are things that, and it's not, my LinkedIn, my checklist is very custom. That's the way I do it. Everybody has one, and they're all good. You can get them anywhere. And so that's great. But it's a matter of who are we talking to and how are we having the conversation. There are people I'll reach out to. Yeah.
LinkedIn coaching is a whole nother topic, but yeah. So yay, I love your freebie. All right. So for honoring time, do you have one or two success stories? And then I'll share a few. And coaching, obviously, I don't know if it's obvious. Coaching is confidential. And I do have a few clients, a couple that are on, I'm being very, honoring, other than Karen Henson, which I just went, oh, so we have to ask for help. I'm thinking hint, hint, hint. However, she's given me permission. Like she said, she's an open book, but coaching is confidential. So with honoring confidentiality, do you have a success story?
I have one that it's interesting because it's one that it was a classic, career woman who, I need to move into this track, and this is where I need to go. And, it's not happening for me, and I don't know why. And so we get into all the reasons why. But at some point, she's really balking. She's like, this is wrong, and I can't do that. And we had a lot of control issues going on, you know, but there was a lot of real conversation. At one point, I just sat back, and I was like, and I just asked her to tell me, like, you're in that role now. You're making the money. You got the title, you got all the stuff. Tell me about your perfect day, you know? Yeah. And she had never looked beyond the window dressing. Never once looked beyond it. And that was one where I think it's a great success story because it was a pivot that neither one of us saw coming. She didn't want it. She thought she was supposed to have it. That was the track. That was the linear progression that her life was supposed to take, that everybody expected. She didn't want it. And so it was a huge pivot for her to make the decision to not only that's not what I want, but I don't want to do this anymore. And so now she moved into a completely different field, which is great, doing something that she loves, which is something that I don't really fully understand, which is like, I know you live down here, so you probably dressage, the dancing
horses. Yep.
Okay. So, but that's what she does now, and very different from the, very structured VP corporate kind of thing. But to me, that I will always think of that as a huge success because it wasn't what she asked for originally, but to my mind, she got her life. She got her life.
Yeah. Well, you helped her find her life, her passion, right? And sometimes we do get on those tracks. And so, so I have a success story. I'm thinking, which one do I want to share? So then I decided, okay, so I don't want to brag, but they're not all successes, but a lot of them are.
You're a good coach. Brag. Go do it.
Thank you. I'm a good coach. So the most recent one, and it's so near and dear to my heart, is my client is in for business coaching to grow his business. And obviously on the first or second coach call, he tells me he's $100,000 in credit card debt. And so we want to grow his business, make sure that his money is allocated to tax, and he owes back taxes. So, so we're coaching about 17 months in, 18 months in. And during this time, he's creating a budget, putting money aside for taxes every month, right? Chipping away at his credit card debt, growing his business, making more money, had some great sales. And about a month ago now, I want to say it was about 2 weeks, probably closer to a month, he calls me and says, call me back. It's really important, because my clients are allowed to have SOS calls, right? And no one abuses it. If they abuse it, I have to stop it. But so
Yeah.
yes, sure, he's got an SOS call. I'll call you back in 45 minutes kind of thing. So he says, I want you on the phone. I'm making my last credit card payment and I will have zero balance on my credit card. And we're both
Oh,
crying, right? I mean, just so emotional, so excited
yeah.
to have gotten out of $100,000 worth of credit card debt.
That
And
is
so,
fantastic.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we do good work, Gretchen.
Yeah.
I'm high-fiving
Yeah.
you. We
All
do
right.
good
Woo!
work. And I say we do good work. There's another piece to this puzzle is the clients need to do the work, right? We don't,
Absolutely.
they do the heavy lifting. If they'll do the heavy lifting,
Yeah.
like we said in the beginning of the call, this is where they are. This is where they want to be. We fill in the gap.
Yeah.
We're there to fill in the gap. And they need to fill in the gap too. It's a partnership. If they don't, then yes, we don't have success stories when that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I can't do it for you. And that's
No.
that's the other piece of that is that, we have to, we'll lock arms and we'll walk it together.
Oh,
but
hell
you
yes.
have to do the work, and when that doesn't happen, that's a whole other conversation. So yeah.
It's a tough conversation. It's a go look in the mirror conversation.
It is. It is.
It could be a very ouchy conversation, but
Yeah.
needs to happen. That's where bravery comes in as being coaches,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Not ones we might not like to have sometimes, but it needs to happen. I mean, I know one of my superpowers is how my drive. I'm competitive. I'm very driven, and somehow I want that to come across to my client and give them that same, like, come on, let's do that. I'm with, like you said, we're locking arms. We're going to do this. Yeah. I'm a driven female. I'm driving you to that finish line. However, I can't drag them. Right.
Yes. Yeah. And that is something, that and that's a challenge when you work with people like that, is that after a while, it's like, I'll literally just stop.
Yep. Oh
and
yeah.
Like, well,
maybe it's a different coach, right? Maybe it's a different coach, and that's okay for me to say. Maybe you need a different voice. Yeah.
And sometimes, when we'll get on the call and they're like, okay, well, I thought we were going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, no, we're not. Well, why not? Because we're not there yet.
Right.
Well, it's supposed to be like 3 weeks, blah, 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 whatever the time frame is. Yeah. And it normally is, but we're still in week 1. Right. We have a whole lot of to-dos and action, things that have not happened. We need to talk about why they're not happening. Because again, between sessions, I have a WhatsApp. I have a little, group. I have a whole members area, like, that's firewalled on my website. Like there are communications and touch points all along the way, and check-ins that we can do. And when that isn't happening, that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. I have the same thing. I have a private group for them to synergize with each other. Once a month, all my coaching clients get on a call once a month, and I have a guest speaker. Chris Hennessy is going to be a guest speaker on video and live streaming in March. I've had Ariel Lee as a guest speaker for financial planning, and people that I've met on LinkedIn, and not everybody. I've had referrals for real estate agents have to pay their own health insurance. So I had a health insurance person on for them. Not all my clients are real estate agents, but a lot of them are real estate agents. So we do what we can. We give a lot, I hope. And I'm always learning how to add more value to my clients, as all business owners need to make sure that they're adding value to their clients. But it's there for them to use. We lead a horse to water, but we can't make them drink.
Yeah. It's,
we could.
I do too. If I could figure out, if anybody knows how to do that, let me know. But it's like that adding value is really important, because it's like the new thing the show that I'm doing, the Flight Attendant, next Tuesday, I have a wellness coach on, and corporate wellness is a big thing. Sure. And there are a lot of companies that could benefit. Plus they can help get their insurance rates down if sometimes it's offering these programs that it can actually benefit the financial health of the corporation. So from a career standpoint, it ties in, but it kind of ties in for everybody. And I know I could always use like wellness, like advice myself, but but it's, I know, right? Like I love my coffee. I drink it all day long. I know it's probably not good for me to do that. And I could lose like a lot, but still. But
that's why we have coaches. We're not super. I mean, right?
Exactly.
We have superpowers, but we're not superhuman, right?
Exactly. And doing the work is important, and we both know to do it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. If I could say one thing though, I want to harken back to something that we were talking about earlier. And that is, since I know that you're streaming across your platforms
Yep.
too, but for specifically for, because I haven't noticed it on Facebook, you have a presence on Facebook. So if you notice it there, let me know. But I know on LinkedIn, I would really like to ask people to be more supportive of their fellow coaches. This is not a competitive thing. And if
Mm-mm.
it never should be viewed as a competitive thing. There are a million career coaches who do great things. And there's me. And nobody does the kind of coaching that I do. Even if they do the kind of
Yep.
coaching that I do, they don't do it the way I do it. So it's not a competitive thing.
No.
And I really wish that and I love the new LinkedIn, because it's very much not the guys in ties briefcase
Right.
kind of
I
site it
agree.
used to be.
Yeah.
But if we could bring the supportive, encouraging atmosphere that we see in posts and other things to other people in our own professions, that would be amazing.
Yeah, there's
Because
enough humans on earth for all of us. They
yeah,
are. And some people are going to go, oh my gosh, Tanya's way too pushy for me, or whatever they say, right? I am, or she's too direct, because I can be right between the eyes, right? Gretchen's softer, right? Or maybe Gretchen's too soft. I need somebody with that whip on her bottom left-hand drawer, right? It just, they're going to connect with us. And I don't view Gretchen or Wendy or Sandra or anybody that I've connected with on LinkedIn, who are all coaches that I just named. Jamie, who I was on my show last night, is a career coach, right?
yep,
And he's going to connect with and attract his own
yeah,
peeps, right?
yeah.
And supporting each other that's the only way I know how to do it. That's just, my biggest value is connection.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, it's a network, but it's my network, right? Of coaches that I know in
Yep.
various areas. And I keep it on a spreadsheet and it's by tab. And there's a lot of them on there because, like you said, sometimes I'm not the coach for you, but I
Right.
love to be able to refer you to somebody who might
Yeah.
be. And sometimes people come to me for like coaching that I don't do. Like, I'm not a relationship. I'm certainly not a financial coach. Like, I wouldn't, no, like it's not going to happen. But but I'm happy to refer people to
Hey,
people
you need
who
one, let me
are
know.
that, right? Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
happy to, and if somebody who needs a business coach or something, like you're going to be somebody that I'm gonna refer people to,
Yeah.
because that's a service. Like,
Yeah.
why would you not want to hook people up with whoever who can help them?
So my funniest story around that is I was doing a discovery call and seeing if we're a good match, right? Because we can
Yeah.
say yes, we're a good match, or no, I don't think we are, and so can they, right? It's
Yeah.
a two-way thing. We both want to work with each other. And one gal said, "You know what? I don't think you're a good match for me." And I said, "Okay, I understand. Can you tell me what the reason is? Like, how are we not connecting? It's fine. I honor it. I'm just curious, right? You sound like my mother. I can't coach with you. You have the exact. I think I'm talking to my mom. I'm like, I mean, the sound of my voice. Just I thought when you said hello, I thought I had called my mother. I'm like, okay, well, I can't change that, right?
I actually had somebody who, and this was recently, who had seen me and heard me talking on stuff, maybe on your show, and then a couple of other ones that I've been kindly invited to. And so we get on the discovery call, and I pre-frame mine. Let them know I'm going to ask a lot of questions, but I'm going to let you do a lot of the talking. So
Yeah.
I'm a talker, not when I'm working. And they're
Yes.
like, "Well, aren't you going to say anything?" Like, what? I'm like, "No, I want to hear when you download. I want to get all the
Yep.
information." And it was really like, they were like, because I don't feel like this is a conversation. I'm like, right. I need to extract, like, there's a question there.
Right.
And I'll do some extraction,
Right.
but
We got to peel the onion here, right? That means you have to talk.
yeah, but I'm a talker, but not when I'm working. I really want to be listening. And so that was one that they were like, I don't really think you're talking to me.
I've been coaching now 10 years. And so, and another one of my values is learning. So
Yeah.
I commit every week to listen to there's programs out there where I can listen to coach calls, and top, master coaches will share their coach calls, and I listen to them, and I do what I can once a week, typically on Sunday, is to better my craft.
Yeah.
And so my first year of coaching, I got feedback because I was a corporate coach, and I got feedback was like, Tanya, you're talking too much. So I had a Post-it note on my computer that said, shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right. So my first, whoever had me my first year, thank you for, being my client that first year. I have obviously progressed over the last 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. We
Right.
learn,
That's
I
right.
have, yeah, I do it. I record all of my Zoom coaching sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and my clients get a copy of the recording, but I watch them. But I
Yeah.
watch them also not just for information about, what we're working on, but if I'm doing something that's distracting,
Right.
or if I like, how can I be better? And
Right.
so those are educational for me as well. But
Yep.
also, yeah, I think ICF has a YouTube channel where they sometimes post, some interviews and things like that. So I mean, there's a lot out there, and I love that. And that's another thing for coaches to do is, you got, just like with any profession, you got
Any
to
profession,
always be
you got
working
to,
on it.
yep,
Yep.
yep, sharpening those tools. And I find
Yep.
that my tool. So one of the things I do is when I'm finding some of my tools getting a little sharp, is then I assist in a coaching class. And so through the Coactive Training Institute, or if it's through ICF, I volunteer. Hey, can I be an assistant? And I get on Zoom and I'm the assistant. And so I'll practice with newbie coaches or wannabe
Yeah.
coaches,
Yeah.
and I do that once a quarter, and it just keeps things sharp.
So I want to ask you a question before
Go
we
for it.
go, because I want to be sure I got this in, because I'm so in awe. Can we please talk about your public speaking? Because I know you're going up for something else, but you've already
Yeah.
done one. And that is an aspect of that one-to-many, being able to really help people, just speaking them through an issue or something that a lot of people like. Can you please talk about that? Because I think a lot of people need to know about you as a coach, but also as a public speaker.
Okay. So as I said earlier, I'm a leaper, right? So I leap. So I saw this opportunity with the Women's Networking Group in Houston, and they have a WISE conference every year. And I used to be involved with this networking group when I was a real estate agent in Houston, again, a long time ago. I'm like, wow, they still have this? This is so cool. And they need a speaker? I want to do it. I had never done this before in my life. I don't know what possessed me, right? And so I applied. I had to submit a video, fill out an application, and they didn't choose me as their keynote speaker, which wasn't really what I was applying for anywhere. I'm thinking, the first time, Tanya, come on, right? But I was a breakout speaker, and and I have pictures. I'll need to do a LinkedIn post and share, because I was doing a guided meditation, and everyone in the audience is like this with their eyes closed, and it is just so powerful, the energy in the room. So I'll do a LinkedIn post this weekend on it, not today. I walked away learning. I made some mistakes. One, I didn't bring business cards. What the frost was I thinking? Right? I didn't bring business cards, and I didn't know the layout of the room. So next time I need to ask about the layout of the room, because it was a long triangle. So people on the ends really couldn't see me, and I didn't have a presentation that they could put on the screen.
Yeah.
So those are the two things I learned. So was it perfect? No. Was it good? Yes.
Yeah.
And I walked away going, oh, I want to do this when I grow up.
Yeah.
Right.
And they say that with whatever you do, every time you do it, just try for that 1% better.
Yeah.
1%,
Oh, I want 10, but I'll take one, but I want 10. And so now IEEE, through my gal who's the engineer, right? She's on the board of the IEEE, which is an engineering, she's the board of directors for IEEE. And she told me about this. It's like, okay, so actually today I'm actually submitting that video that I posted,
good.
and filling out the application. I'm going, if I can do this once or twice a year, how fun could that be?
Absolutely.
To impact that many people. There was about 300 people in the room. So to impact that many people, you know, that's what I'm about. That's what I'm about. To impact people and help them move the needle.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do when you grow up, Gretchen, before we hang up?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a coach for that, Gretchen.
I know, right? I mean, mostly, and I mentioned it before to somebody else, but, I like talking to people. It's probably the reason that led me into journalism and being a reporter for a while. And then, I was an editor for a while. What led me into marketing, telling people stories, brand stories, whatever. Now it's listening to people tell theirs and kind of figure out, how to get them to the ending that they want, or at least the next chapter that they want. But really, that's it. I just like talking to people and helping them figure out problems. I mean, the flight attendant was just a funny name I came up with for, an alternate way of saying problem solving, right?
Right.
There's a plight, there's something that's that rock in your shoe. Let's figure it out and let's work through it. But yeah, I mean, that's really, what I would like to do when I grow up is just talk to people.
Well, you're doing it and you do a great job. And, all right, so let's do this again. And I'm going to throw it out in the atmosphere. If anybody knows a good relationship coach in honor of, February and Valentine's Day, let's have the three of us on.
Yeah.
I'll do some digging.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good Friday, everybody. Thank you for your support. And Gretchen, this was fun.
It was fun. Thank you for asking me to do it. This is so fun.
All right. Talk to you later.